Here now is Judge Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst.
You've got to love Jim Jordan. I mean, he just gets right to the point. It really sounded like they were in two opposite political parties, not the same political party, though I think they have the same goal. I don't think a special counsel is needed. And what would it take to appoint one? An inability of the Justice Department ethically to prosecute the case because of some conflict. Some high-ranking person in the Justice Department who has to serve as a witness, like Jeff Sessions might be a witness for Bob Mueller, might be a witness that would exonerate the president, or it might be a witness that fills in a couple of little pieces of the puzzle. But I agree with Jim Jordan that these things ought to be investigated. They just ought to be investigated by the regular Justice Department. Independent counsels are dangerous.
I know they're dangerous, but of course the problem is that you have people from one party, in theory, investigating the other, and then that immediately brings up, you know, we don't punish our political enemies in this country. Let me take you to a little part of the exchange after what we saw, where he said, it's sure, and this was Jim Jordan, it sure looks like the FBI was paying the author of that document, the dossier, and it sure looks like a major political party was working with the federal government to then turn opposition research, the equivalent of some National Enquirer story, into an intelligence document to take that to a FISA court and get a warrant to spy on President Trump's campaign.
That may very well be true.
Is that enough to investigate?
Yes, it's enough to investigate, but
maybe
it's
they already
not.
Are.
But I think they are. Just reading between, I have no knowledge of this. I have no source telling me this. But just reading between the lines, the way Jeff Sessions hesitated and paused, he doesn't want to reveal the existence of an investigation because he's not supposed to. It's not a crime for him to do it, but it violates the DOJ regulations. I think they are. But what you just read and what Jim Jordan articulated about the dossier, whether the FBI paid for it or not. Look, if the FBI paid for it, if it is true that the FBI paid Christopher Steele $50,000 for that dossier, that absolutely must be investigated. But that can be done by the Justice Department. We don't need an independent counsel.
And along the lines of, you know, when you say it might already be done, that was the direct question. Did the FBI pay for that ridiculous dossier that was filled with garbage? I don't think they asked it quite like that. And he said, I cannot respond to that. I can't answer that question.
Well, he
That's
probably has evidence to support some answer, but they are continuing to investigate, and until the investigation is concluded and they've looked under every rock, he doesn't want to give an answer. So as frustrating as his answer was, it's probably the right answer to get.
But Jordan didn't feel like, I mean, do you feel like that was all show, or do you feel like he seemed legitimately mad at Sessions?
I agree with you. I don't think it was some of the questions.
Sessions is not doing his job, or he's not answering enough? What is what's your take?
Okay, a couple of questions. I do not think Jordan was putting on a show. I think that's his personality, and it manifested anger, and I think it was a collective anger on the part of about the 20 members of that committee that have been making requests of Jeff Sessions and haven't gotten answers. Is Jeff doing his job? A tough question for me to answer because I have a lot of respect and affection for him, and I've known him for years. He is giving the impression to the legal, judicial, and now political community of reluctance and hesitation. That is not a good impression to give. Guess who else gets that impression? The guy that's flying back from Asia and will be landing in Washington tonight.
Interesting. All right, fighting back against a so-called secret correspondence, Donald Trump Jr. releasing exchanges he had with Wikileaks following a report by The Atlantic that the two were in direct contact on Twitter during the 2016 campaign, tweeting, quote, "Here's the entire chain of my messages, my whopping 3 responses. Which one of the congressional committees has chosen to selectively leak? How ironic." Judge, is there a crime in there on any side? What do you think?
Well, we start with the proposition that it's not a crime to email anybody. You can email a foreign national, you can email a criminal, you can email a terrorist. The crime would come about if there's an agreement as a result of the email to do something illegal, and then somebody in the agreement takes a step in furtherance of it. That's called a conspiracy. So if you look at Donald Jr.'s, and I don't mean to disrespect him by calling him that, but just as a shorthand handle, if you look at Donald Jr.'s responses to the anonymous WikiLeaks emailer, they appear to be innocuous. They even appear to be naive. But if you look at them as part of the continuing picture of regular, consistent, systematic communications between the Trump campaign And some foreign entities, usually Russia, directly or indirectly, they may fill in a piece of the puzzle that Bob Mueller is looking for. So I don't think he can wash his hands of it quite the way he'd like to. But again, Bob Mueller knows a lot more about this. He sees the rest of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Only he can tell us if the pieces are adequately filled in for him to make a decision.
Interesting stuff. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
We always appreciate your time, David.